It's Friday, April 24th, 2020. Digital Trends Live is about to start. Here are some of the topics we're covering on today's episode of the show. The Google and Apple cross-platform team-up will allegedly be completed soon with new workers, while at the same time, some employees at Amazon are planning to walk out in protest of warehouse conditions. And we'll have the author of Metahuman and 89 other books, Deepak Chopra, joining us to talk about his Now for Tomorrow podcast and a 21-day meditation challenge with Oprah of Entertainment. We'll also have Joseph Gordon-Levitt on the show today. All that and more on today's episode of Digital Trends Live. Yes, hello everyone. This is Digital Trends Live. Thank you for tuning in. I'm Greg Nibbler. We broadcast live here every weekday, 9 a.m. Pacific, noon Eastern, bringing you trending tech headlines, news, interviews, discussions, and so much more. All while broadcasting live across a number of different platforms. We're on Periscope, Twitter, Twitch, Facebook, YouTube, LinkedIn, Dailymotion, Apple News, 2 different mobile apps, a smart television app, and at digitaltrends.com/live. So wherever you're finding us, you can join in the conversations we get to have. So feel free to drop in those on whatever platform you are watching on. But let's get you up to date on some news here, as we always do to start the show off. Let's talk about contact tracing. That is a word you're going to be seeing a lot of coming up very soon if you haven't already. And that is because there's a team up going on between Google and Apple. The two behemoths who are usually battling each other teamed up, and they are getting ready to release an API. So let me explain exactly what this means. Essentially, it's going to be a way for a cross-platform tracking of people who have possibly come into contact with someone with COVID-19. So the way this works is once this is released, it'll go out to developers. So this will mean that Android phones and iPhones can talk together, and then governments can set up apps which you would voluntarily download. With that app, you would turn on your Bluetooth. Your Bluetooth would ping other people that you were in proximity with. Now, this is not supposed to be tracking any personal data. It would just be anonymous data saying, hey, you ping this person. Now, say you go a week later, and the local government finds out somebody has contracted coronavirus, they can send out, through that person's app, a ping to everybody who came into contact with them, letting them know, hey, you were in proximity with somebody who had coronavirus or COVID-19, you should probably get checked out. So it's a way to actually track where this is spreading and notify people that they need to get tested. It can actually do a lot. We've seen it in South Korea where they've been using it, but this is something we think it's coming out next week, at least according to a report, but it will be coming out pretty soon where this will roll out, and then local governments will develop the apps. Now, whether you opt in or not, that's up to you. That is certainly something that will be a big issue with that, is people will have to go into it. There's all kinds of information about it, though, and I wanted to let you know about that because you're going to see contact tracing coming up a lot, and we've got more details at digitaltrends.com for you to follow up on. Continuing on here with just some updated news. Instacart, something that a lot of us are using right now, and they need more employees. So here's what's going on. They have said that they plan to hire 250,000 new workers. 250,000. So if you are somebody who is looking for employment or know somebody, this is something that they are hiring for because they need more people to do this. They also said they're going to be adding in a wellness check option. So it's an in-app wellness check to where you would be able for the workers to say whether or not they're having symptoms, and then they would then be asked to not work. They are adding in, though, some extended sick pay periods for the shoppers, and so a number of different things that they're doing. And that's with Instacart, what they have coming out. So to be aware of that, you can follow along at digitaltrends.com. Something else with Amazon. So we've heard of some warehouse protests that have been going on where warehouse workers have been walking out at various different places around the country, around the United States anyway. And now we're seeing some things going on even further up the chain. So some of Amazon's tech workers are actually supposed to be protesting today by calling out sick in basically accordance with the warehouse workers in support of them because of what they think are conditions that should be improved there. Amazon's made several statements that they are actually trying to do different things for the workers, but there's a lot of turmoil going on there. There's a lot of news actually out about this. We've got the stories at digitaltrends.com if you want to follow up, but just letting you know that it's moved up the chain, so to speak, in Amazon to the actual tech workers, not the warehouse workers, who are now allegedly calling out sick in accordance and in support of the warehouse workers. So we'll have to see where that all rolls out, but I bet we'll get some more information on that later on today. One more thing with coronavirus, and I know I'm going through the news quick, but there's a lot to get to here right at the start of the show because Joseph Gordon-Levitt's going to be joining us here in just a minute. Well, you're going to see him. So here's something else. I talked about this earlier this week, so I'll follow up on the drone story that I was talking about in New York, where they were going to be using Dragonfly drones to track people and to see if the social distancing was being, not track people, that's probably the wrong way to phrase that, but to track whether or not people were going along with social distancing. There's even some tests that we're going to do with thermal imaging to see if somebody was sick. They could scan your temperature. They could see if you're coughing. But the backlash was so big, they have dropped those plans. This was the Westport Police Department in Connecticut that was going to be testing this out, and the ACLU protested. They got a lot of protests, and they just said, never mind, we're not going to do it. So it sounds like that is being canceled. They're going to reassess that. We have seen other countries do it, but that's what's going on there in Westport. So for a lot of comments that we got about those drones, they heard them. They're not going to be doing that. So that's something else you can follow along with, again, at digitaltrends.com. Continuing on here with some news to keep you up to date. Fortnite had its biggest concert ever. So this is the in-game concert. Last year they had DJ Marshmello who did one, and this year they've got Travis Scott, and it debuted yesterday with 12.3 million concurrent streamers. So 12.3 million people came into Fortnite to watch this virtual concert with Travis Scott. I will say it's pretty fascinating what they did with it. I wasn't in there for it itself, but I did watch it, and it's up on YouTube. You can see it at several different places, but it's pretty fascinating. Now, if you missed it, they are going to be putting out, they're going to be doing several other times. So there's 4 more opportunities for you to watch it as well, to join in and watch it live. And we've got kind of a guide of how you can do that at digitaltrends.com. But an interesting way to do that's the astronomical tour is what they're calling it. So that's something that they are going to be doing again. But that's, again, Travis Scott, 12.8 million people watching it. There are 12.3 million. Sorry, shorted you there, or overshot by 500,000. But that's it, 12.3 million. So that's where we're at on that. That is something you can follow along with at digitaltrends.com. I'm bringing a lot of news real quick because I want to get to that interview. So here's what's something else that you can follow along with when it comes to electric vehicles. We know that a lot of manufacturers are getting into the game, and a lot of different styles are coming out, but now we've got Ford with this one, and there's a reason this is interesting. They have created one, it's the Mach-E, but it's a V8 with 1,400 horsepower, and this is designed to compete in drag racing. So that's something that's an interesting use case for an electric vehicle. This would be able to, they say, reach a speed of 170 miles per hour in about 8 seconds. And that's pretty tremendous. So if this is something that does work out, the reason this is kind of a fascinating thing is another entry into usually a very gas-oriented field with an electric vehicle. So we'll have to see where it goes from there. But they released a whole video with it, kind of showcasing what they're doing. So kind of a cool thing that they're doing with that. And we'll have to see where that goes from there as we see more of these manufacturers get into the e-vehicle racing. And final thing here is this. We've had a lot of anniversaries this week. It was YouTube's 15th anniversary, but it's the Hubble Space Telescope's 30th anniversary. So the Hubble Space Telescope has actually done a lot for science, and they released this image today in accordance with that. That kind of showcases some of the cool stuff. This one's never been seen before, this image that they put out. So they've got a great video series that came out with it, just kind of commemorating what went on with it and what they've been able to accomplish with the Hubble Space Telescope, but pretty cool. And a lot of that information we've got at Digital Trends. You can follow up right there at digitaltrends.com.
Hey, I'm going to let you in on a little secret. It's now time for the product of the day.
Indeed it is. So here is the product. It is the Arlo Pro 2 wireless home security camera system with a siren. The siren's the bonus. So here's what's going on. We're all at home right now, but there have been some upticks and burglaries and things like that. I mean, it might as well be the time to get a good security camera. So this one is 100% wire-free. You can wire it in if you want, but you don't have to. That's nice to have the option. It's got 1080p HD, a rechargeable battery. It's weather resistant, so you can put it outside. It's got a 2-way audio, so you can talk to the person. You know, somebody's creeping in the backyard, you can yell at them. It's got night vision. It's got free cloud recordings. It's got local backup storage, and it works with Amazon's A-word, which I won't say because I don't want to set everybody's off. And it's also got a 3-second look back, which is actually a really nice feature. So if it does start recording something and it notices something, it'll give you 3 seconds previous so you can see the person sneaking up there. It's got different activity zones you can set. So it's actually a really nice one to utilize and to take advantage of. So this is, again, a home security system. This is the Arlo Pro wireless security system. That rechargeable battery is a really key point on there as well. And the siren. Don't forget about the siren, because that's something you really want to do. If you do have an issue, you want everybody to know about it. And right now, it is 47% off. That's a really good deal. So it is on sale for $253.40. $253.40 currently if you follow that link. That's right there. So type that in, click it, follow through to that, take a look at this thing. If you've been thinking about getting a security camera, it's probably a good time to do it. You're going to be home. You can test it out. That one's a pretty good one. So that's the Arlo Pro 2. All right. We need to go to a break because coming up, we're going to play part 1 of our interview with Joseph Gordon-Levitt. So that's all the tease I need to give you. Joseph Gordon-Levitt coming up next, right after this break. Stick around, back here in a minute with more Digital Trends Live. Welcome back to Digital Trends Live. I'm Greg Nibbler. Thanks so much for joining us. You know our next guest from a myriad of television shows and incredible movies, but he's also the co-founder and CEO of Hit Record, a collaborative platform for artists and creators. And they're launching a new 6-episode series called Create Together, featuring artists from all over the world and hosted by our guest, Joseph Gordon-Levitt. Thank you so much for being here. Really appreciate you joining. And I guess the first question I have to ask is something we're asking everybody is, how are you holding up during quarantine?
Yeah, thank you. Very grateful. Feeling very lucky to have a place to be and that I'm able to work from home. And certainly a lot of people are not so lucky on either of those fronts. And, you know, just incredibly a lot of respect for the people out there that are doing the work that needs to be done and braving these difficult times. So thank you for asking. How are you? Is everybody good in your world?
You know, I'm doing good. We were able to set up actually a whole studio here at my house. This is my house with the whole thing that we were able to do that and keep working. And that's what I actually wanted to ask you too, what your setup is like that you have right there. I can kind of see a little bit of it behind, but how is your studio set up?
Yeah, I mean, this is my, like, you know, my teenage self's dream room that when I bought my house, you know, there's drums and there's like probably much more recording equipment than I really need, but it makes me very happy. It's the rec room, and I've had it for, you know, a number of years now, and it's sort of my office and my playroom, and especially working from home every day, all day, it's a pretty nice place to be. So it just gets back to like very grateful, feeling very lucky.
Well, going to that and talking about everybody working from home right now and everybody kind of trying to figure out ways to be creative, let's talk about the inspiration for Create Together and what kind of brought that to fruition.
Yeah, so I was in the middle of production, actually. I was shooting a TV show called Mr. Corman for Apple, which was going to, you know, come out next year. And now I guess we'll see when we get to actually finish it and when it'll come out. But you know, we were in the thick of production, and the show, along with every other show and every other TV and film production, got put on pause. And so I was at home and said to myself, all right, if I'm going to like stay sane, I got to stay creative, and I'm just going to commit to doing something creative every day. And hit record makes that really doable because I wanted to. It's hard for me sometimes to just like be creative all by myself. I grew up on sets. You know, sets are very collaborative places. You feed off of other people's creative energy. And if I were tasked with trying to stay creative at home by myself, that would be hard for me personally. But Hit Record is a community of people that I started many years ago, and it's all about people being creative together. So like, a lot of online platforms for art and creativity, people just post things that they've made on their own. But on Hit Record, it's less about look at what I made, and it's more about let's make something together. So it's really easy to get started doing stuff because there's always someone who's got a project going and they're looking for, someone to write or someone to act or someone to draw or play music. And I like doing all those things. So I was just, on Hit Record every day doing something creative and making little videos about it. And seeing the community kind of rise up to this dark moment where everyone's feeling so isolated, it felt like this bizarre silver lining. I hate to say anything positive about this moment because there's people that are really struggling and there's people that are dying, so many every day. But in this moment, seeing this thing that I've been working on and a lot of people have been working on for so many years really provide something that a lot of people are needing right now, a chance to, in this moment, come together and be collaborative and not just chat online, but actually make something together and have that profound connection that comes with collaborating on something creative, making art together. It's been really uplifting. And so seeing that happening just made me think we should be documenting this. This should be a show of some kind. And so we just really quickly put a pitch together and we pitched it to YouTube Originals. This is our second thing that we're doing with them. We made a music documentary with them last year with the rapper Logic that I love called Band Together. And so we're working with all the same people and they're just like, this is really great. And it kind of got fast tracked and now we're making the show and the first episode's going to come out very soon, very, very like, less than a month from now. And it's just all about how people are coping with this time by staying creative and doing it together.
Well, and I think that's fantastic what you're doing, but talking about this, with artists from all over the world and you're creating 6 episodes, how are you going to make those determinations on what is in the show? Are there certain things you're looking for? How does that process work?
Yeah, I mean, so there's just stuff that's going on in our community all the time. And we don't want to make it about just what's the most ambitious and polished, finished work of art. We really want to make it more about people's stories of their lives right now and how creativity is fitting into their lives and how collaboration brings that kind of connection. So we're just, I was just on, with my producers today and we're having to go fast because the stuff's going to come out quick. And we're just like checking out all these different things that people are doing. And some of them are really simple collaborations and some of them are more ambitious, and shining light on them and getting people also to contribute not only their art, but their own kind of personal stories. So there's like prompts on the site to like say, hey, tell us about yourself. Tell us about your life right now and where creativity fits into your life. Tell us a story about a project that you're working on. And so we're just really looking for a wide variety. We want as diverse a variety of people as possible. Diversity, both in terms of like where people live, what kind of lives they're leading. Are they getting to stay at home or are they out there working? Are they expert artists or are they beginners just learning? We want really all of the above. And so those are the kinds of stories we're looking for.
Well, and there are so many different projects that are going on there, at all times. Are there any particular projects or collaborations that you've been following that you've really been enjoying watching them grow?
Well, the first one that comes to mind actually is it's a short documentary project that I've been talking about a lot in the last couple weeks online, and it started with this woman. She goes by Vicious Vixen in the community, and it started with this just little piece of writing from her. She's still working, and there were confirmed cases of COVID-19 in her workplace, and she was understandably feeling really stressed out about it. And she can't afford to quit her job, and her job is not the kind where she can work from home. And she's scared of catching something and bringing it home, but she can't quit. And it was a really potent reminder that not everybody is able to stay home. And, there's all this messaging out there, people saying, stay at home, save lives. And that's true. But we also have to remember that for a lot of people, staying at home is a luxury they can't afford. And it really made me all the more grateful for the experience I'm having, the life I'm getting to lead right now. And I was so struck with her writing, I suggested to her, we should make a short documentary about this exact thing, about how economic inequality is impacting how different people are experiencing this pandemic. And so she and I are co-leading this short documentary project right now. And we've been getting contributions from so many different people, both people who are staying at home and then people who are not staying at home, and seeing the differences. And it's been really fascinating. And again, it's really been a recipe for gratitude for me. And so I'm interested to see how that short documentary comes together.
And I know what you're saying. Why did we just stop that in the middle? Because it was so great, we wanted to split it up into two parts. So coming up on Monday, we'll have the second half of that interview with Joseph Gordon-Levitt. We appreciate him coming on the show so much. How awesome is he, right? Well, there's a lot more to it, and that's why you want to stay tuned on Monday when we play that second half. Hit that subscribe button right now. You'll get the notification when it pops up. But we have plenty more on this show. Coming up in just a little bit, we've got Deepak Chopra, who's going to be joining here to talk about his new podcast, his collaboration with Oprah Winfrey. And coming up next, we've got musician Kenny Lattimore. We've got so much more on this show, and thanks to everybody who's joining us right now. So stick around. We'll be right back after this break with more Digital Trends Live. Back to Digital Trends Live. Again, thanks for joining us. I'm Greg Nibbler. Hit that subscribe button. Get the notifications when we go live every single weekday, which it's 9 a.m. Pacific, but still, you want that notification to pop up, do that. And we are talking to all kinds of people, and especially right now, we need entertainment. We love our artists, but they're all at home as well. We're all under quarantine, and we're going to talk to an artist right now, a musician. We have Kenny Lattimore joining us. And first off, I want to say thank you so much for being here on the show today. Really appreciate it. And something we're asking everybody, how are you holding up during quarantine?
Wow. It's been an interesting time for me because I just happened to just get married. I got married on March 8th. And initially, when the quarantine was imposed, I felt like, oh my gosh, we're going to make this like an extended honeymoon. We're going to try to use the time and get to know each other better, try to wrap our minds around something good and not panic, which was very important, I think, because so many people panicked and, you know, and going to the grocery store and looking for items. And it was like madness for a minute. But now it's starting to calm down a bit, and we're trying to get somewhat of a routine going. Get up in the morning, get dressed, you know, just do regular things that keep us active and keep our minds active in this time, because we're so used to being super busy and just out. So I'm trying to use it positively.
That's great. And I think that's something that a lot of people are trying to do too, is figure out a routine to get through it. You know, now that, like you said, it's been a little while. I do think that's crazy that, you know, you just got married right before all this happened.
Right.
So that's probably changed up a lot of plans there. Are you still planning on going somewhere afterward, after this is all done, or have you rearranged those plans too?
You know what? We'll be rearranging those. Fortunately, too, I want to say for everybody that none of our guests were sick from the wedding or anything. We were really blessed. And I think the transitions that are happening with us, even with regard to business, are going to put us in a position where as soon as we come out of quarantine, like my wife has a television show. She is the judge for a divorce court. And because of where we are with the quarantine and everything, she will have to do some things maybe digitally for the show, and then transition into the period when she can actually travel to set, things like that. So she's actually working really hard now as they figure out what her next steps will be. And for me, I'll probably go on and do some new music and, you know, use my time to continue to expand my catalog there. But I don't think we're going to be able to go back necessarily. I think as we go forward, we'll just find a new time and it'll represent something else in our relationship.
You know, I think that's really interesting too, just how everybody's adapting and changing what they do, you know, and your wife telecommuting for possibly a television show, really interesting concept. And for you, you know, for music, we've seen a lot of people, you know, connecting with their fans on social media. Is that something that you've been doing? And if so, what platform have you been connecting with your fans on?
Definitely Zoom, Facebook Live, and Instagram Live. We've done some live concerts, just engaging the fans, letting them know that, you know, we care about them as well. And giving music at this particular time is a really great gesture, I think, to making people smile, making them happy. And during a time where, you know, it's really difficult, it takes their mind off of, you know, having to be at home. And then I don't know if this is as fair, but I live in California. So in California, you know, the weather is amazing, and we're able to kind of get out a little bit more. I know that there are areas in the country where people are truly confined, like in some of the major cities where it's a lot more dense or densely populated. So I've been just trying to make sure that I use the digital platforms to get me into these homes, into the places, again, where people can be uplifted emotionally and psychologically during this time. Radio interviews.
Looking at a lot of the different Instagram Live, right? Yeah. And looking at some of the different ways that, you know, musicians are connecting, some of the Instagram Live concerts. You've been following along with what some of your fellow artists are doing. Is there any
One of my favorites is a good friend of mine is DJ D Nice, and of course we saw him engage millions of people with his quarantine parties, and that was so early on. We were like, "Whoa, what is this?" DJ D Nice is doing it, and just amazing, innovative. We've seen the major concerts that have been in combination with the television networks, and we've seen shows like The Real and talk shows from home, Tamron Hall, things like that. It's been really amazing to know that we as creatives can always find new ways to make sure that what we do continues. And I think that a lot of things, this is going to change things forever. I think it really is. There's some really great things about it. The fact that I can do this from home and still engage people. I think we're going to find new purposes for this kind of technology that we didn't have on the forefront of our minds when it came up.
Yeah, I think you're 100% right on that, because everybody's, figuring out how things are changing and utilizing all this tech we have. The last question I have for you is, you did mention that, you might be recording some new music when you get out of this. Anything that you can tease the fans with, talk about, what's on the way?
Well, right now I have a single out with an artist called Boney James. He is really a fantastic saxophonist. We have a song called Be Here. So I'm continuing to make music, love music. That's my lane that I'm in. And that is going to always continue. This is giving me the time to really focus creatively and listen on a different level, because again, I would normally be busy during this time, traveling, touring, and all of that, in addition to trying to create. But at this time, having the quarantine, I think, maybe it'll make my music even more thoughtful, because from a lyric standpoint, I'm just in a different place. So the way that I write, the way that I express myself in music, a lot of it is taken from life experience. So I think a lot of quarantine songs are going to come not necessarily a lyric about the quarantine, but songs that are more insightful, more insightful and reflective about this time. Something's definitely going to come out about that, I think.
Well, I mean, I think it's something that's affecting all of us. And like you said, things are going to be different afterward, but you're finding inspiration, and it's so important what you're doing and providing people music and entertainment and connecting with everybody. And I want to say thank you for connecting with everybody here too. And thank you so much, Kenny, for being here on Digital Trends Live today. Absolutely. And thanks to, again, essential workers and people out there that are putting their health and lives on the line to save others. It's amazing. I mean, I got a call from my son's pediatric institution the other day, or the pediatrician, and I'm realizing that this technology again is how doctors are going to be seeing patients somehow, and so we're just using everything to make sure that things continue to move along, that we stay positive, and we believe that this too shall pass. Kenny, thank you so much for being here with us. Thank you. Really appreciate it. And yeah, thanks a lot. So everybody watching live, that is Kenny Lattimore right here on Digital Trends Live joining us. And thank you to everybody who is watching live right now. And we appreciate it. We've got such a lineup of guests here today. Coming up next, talking about positivity, we have Deepak Chopra, who is joining us to talk about his new podcast and his meditation challenge with Oprah Winfrey. Yeah, so we're going to be talking about some pretty cool things here coming up, so stick around. We'll be right back here in a minute with more Digital Trends Live. And welcome back to Digital Trends Live. I'm Greg Nibbler. Again, thank you for joining us. Hit that subscribe button on whatever platform you are on because you want to see what we're doing here every single day because we get to talk to some pretty amazing people. A lot of us, well, I mean, I'll speak for myself, but I'm going to guess a lot of you out there are probably a little bit stressed out right now. It's pretty easy to get that way, but we have our guest who is the expert on helping us to get a little bit more calm and so much more. Joining us right now, we have Deepak Chopra. Thank you so much for being here today. And it's something I want to ask you. I'm sure the entire world's looking to you for advice and to ask you how to handle this. I want to ask you, though, how are you holding up during quarantine?
I'm doing very well, Greg. I'm reinventing my body and resurrecting my soul and finding meaning and purpose in this time so that when we all go back to this beautiful biosphere life, will help create a better, more peaceful, just, sustainable, healthier, and joyful world.
Well, there are so many different things that you're doing that I want to talk about, that you've got going on to help people out. But one thing right here is this, what you're calling the STOP method. And I'm really curious to know more about that and what that means for people during this time.
Well, anytime you feel stressed, there's a biological response in the body. Your body doesn't feel good. You have tightness somewhere, or in the chest or in the gut, or muscle gets tight. So anytime you experience that, stop. STOP is an acronym. S stands for stop. Take 3 deep breaths, T, and smile from your head to your toes, because smiling changes your biology. And then observe the sensations in your body, the uncomfortable sensations, or just observe your breath. And then proceed with awareness and compassion. Stop being a biological robot that is constantly being triggered by the news and circumstance into predictable panic. So don't be a participant in predictable panic. Just be aware and make conscious choices. That's the STOP formula.
That's a great formula, and it is kind of hard to break out of that sometimes. So that's fantastic.
Do it right now.
Thinking about this right now.
I said, get into the habit.
Okay, but I'm on air.
Now. Okay.
Yeah. Okay, I will do it as soon as we go to break. 100%, because I don't want to. I want to make sure that we get some questions into you. Talking about this, you've got your book out as well. So let's talk about the book, Metahuman, and this is your 90th book.
Yeah. So meta means beyond. Meta means beyond, and human in this case is beyond the human conditioned mind. When we go beyond our conditioned mind, our reactive mind, we experience insight, intuition, inspiration, creativity. We have a higher calling and vision, and we feel free no matter what the circumstances are. So that's the book. But I also have a podcast right now that we are promoting, and it's about what you can do right now to feel better, not only right now, but tomorrow as well. It's called Now for Tomorrow.
And I'm really interested in this podcast because it just came out. It's fairly new anyway. Now for Tomorrow, and what will someone get when they listen to this? What is it that that you're walking them through?
So my critics, including my son, say, you have all this amazing insight, philosophy, metaphysics. What do we do? And so that's how this came into existence. That was the genesis of what do you do now to feel better, not only now, but tomorrow as well. How do you make choices this moment so that you can have a better tomorrow?
For you now being in quarantine too, and you're used to being out talking to so many different people, how are you staying connected? Are you using social media platforms, or what kind of technology are you using to stay connected to people?
So, Greg, you have a good name for this company, Digital Trends. Digital trends are trending right now. So using digital technology, I'm also using VR, by the way, and artificial intelligence and immersive experiences to help people get insight into the nature of their body, their mind, their spirit, their purpose, and their relationships. Those are the 5 things I'm focusing on: body, mind, spirit, purpose, and relationships. And that's what the podcast is also about. And that's what Metahuman is about.
You mentioned virtual reality. I find that very interesting that you're utilizing that. What kinds of things are you doing in VR to bring in these kinds of experiences?
With VR, we are creating experiences, number one. So you can get the experience of the Buddha under the Bodhi tree that he experienced after years of meditation. VR can give you that experience in 18 minutes or 20 minutes. But with the new technologies, the new digital technologies, one can create algorithms that correlate the experience with breathing, with heart rate variability, with immune function, with hormone regulation. So as we move into the future, you'll see that all subjective experiences are measurable, either in the brain or in the body, or even in your biochemistry. And you can correlate these self-referral feedback loops of self-regulation with breathing and heart rate and stress. So you can actually create new technologies, VR, for intervention, for decreasing inflammation in the body. There's no drug that can do that, but experience can do that. And there are drugs that will decrease inflammation selectively, but not holistically, but they also have side effects. So I think in 5 years from now, when you go to see a physician, if they're up to date, they'll give you a VR session instead of a pharmaceutical, or both. But VR is going to be much more effective. There's a whole science now. It's called electroceuticals instead of pharmaceuticals. And these are basically digital trends. I'm using the name of your company. These are digital trends that will make completely a whole different era of technologies. You know, every time there's been a recession, every time there's been a pandemic, new technologies have emerged. So AM radio came after the First World War and the Great Depression and the influenza flu. Television came after the Second World War. The internet came after the 88 recession. Mobile phone came in 2000. Then you had smartphones, and now we have VR and augmented dreamscapes and new algorithms and bioregulation, artificial intelligence. This is the time to invent new opportunities, even for business.
Wow, that's a really interesting comparison. I didn't even think about that. All those other technologies during these times of stress. And you know, something else. Speaking of times of stress, I know that you've also got a 21-day meditation challenge that is going on now that people can, in accordance with Oprah. Can you tell us about that and what that is and how people can participate?
Yeah, in partnership with Oprah, we have taught meditation now to between 6 to 10 million people worldwide through digital technology. So we are offering 21 days of meditation challenge with Oprah right now, how to deal with these unpredictable times, how to experience hope and creativity and joy, even in the midst of the pandemic. Because there are three pandemics right now: the infection, the stress, and the financial crisis. And they're all equally related. If you're stressed, you're going to make very poor financial choices, and you're going to ruin your biology. So take advantage of the 21-day meditation challenge with Oprah. It's available on chopracentermeditation.com. It's free.
Well, Deepak, I don't know how you find the energy to have all of these projects going at the same time, but really appreciate the fact that you do. I am going to practice stop during the break. I will definitely do that. I'm going to take a listen to the podcast and this meditation challenge. I mean, I think we can all use some help right now, and that's why somebody like you is here to help us all out. And Deepak, I want to say thank you so much for joining us here on Digital Trends Live.
Thank you, Greg. It's such an honor to speak to you, and especially because you're pioneering the new technologies. Digital trends is the trend right now.
Thank you so much. That is so nice of you to say. Well, appreciate you being here. Have a safe day. And there we go, everybody. Deepak Chopra right here on the show. It's been a whirlwind. We've got more coming up, though. So coming up here after this break, we've got Ciara Pressler for another edition of Work Life, talking about finding balance between your work, between your life. She is here to help us out with that. So that's coming up next. Stick around back here in a minute with more Digital Trends Live. Hello and welcome back to Digital Trends Live. I'm Greg Nibbler, and again, thank you for joining us wherever you are. We appreciate it. And I know, well, let's be honest, we're probably all at home right now. I'm at home. You're probably at home. We're all in quarantine. So it's a very important time to figure out that work-life balance. And that is why we have Ciara Pressler here to join us for another edition of that. Ciara, hello. So nice to see you, to have you here on the show. And I know that it is so important for so many people, like right now, finding that work-life balance. I mean, more maybe than ever. What should we talk about today?
Well, today I want to talk about something that's important, whether we're in quarantine or not, definitely important for work and for life, which is self-promotion. How do you do it in a way that's not gross?
That is such a, that's a great way to phrase it, because I mean, I've tried it. I'm sure everybody at home has tried it in self-promotion. And sometimes, you feel like, okay, this is weird just promoting myself. So I guess my question would be, what are the important factors for why do we need to be self-promoting?
Yeah, great question. Well, the reason is because no one is going to do it for you. You have to be your own best cheerleader, your own best advocate. And we're really in a time where self-promotion is going to be really important. Everybody's on their screens right now, so social media, seeing what's going on, catching up with people. But a lot of us are about to go into a job search, possibly because of the rates of unemployment, and everyone's brushing up that portfolio, getting their LinkedIn profile on point. And so it's time to learn how to shout out your own accomplishments in a better way. You've got to stand out from those other job candidates when you get back out in that market. And now is the time to learn how to do that. But if you are self-employed, it's even more important. Or if maybe you own your own business like I do, you have to shout out what you're up to, the projects that you're doing, because you don't have a boss who is going to advocate for you. You have to advocate for yourself.
So how do you, going back to your first point of sometimes, not feeling gross when you're doing it, how do you go about that in the right way? What is the right way to do this?
Yeah, and I think most people err on the side of being too self-deprecating, like passing it over to somebody else who also worked on a project, for example, which is really nice, but sometimes humility needs to take a backseat to really shouting out your own accomplishments. I learned this when I was interviewing for my last job before I started my first business. It was the night before my second interview, and I happened to sit next to this woman at a bar, and she overheard me talking about my interview, and she was like, you need to shout yourself out, you need to advocate for yourself, and really tell them why you deserve this job. And it changed the way I interview, and I got that job. And it really helped show me that you have to be the person who talks about yourself. So the way to do that without being icky or without sounding like really arrogant or like you're bragging is to state the facts. I think a lot of the time when we're being too humble and self-deprecating, we add a lot more extra information in, like saying, I'm so honored to be acknowledged by this, and that for winning this award. Just say that you won this award. You don't need to change your language. I find that a lot of people, especially on social media like LinkedIn, they change their voice and their tone when they're talking about an achievement. Just be yourself. Talk the way you would normally talk. You don't have to start using very formal or flowery language when you talk about an achievement if that's not how you talk normally.
Okay, that's great advice that we can all use. How do you also, one of the things that I know is really great, and you mentioned like LinkedIn or other platforms, is getting other people to also help join in with that. How do you motivate and get other people involved?
Yes, so this is the next step. After you post that update or maybe launch your website that's your personal portfolio, or even if you're job searching, the next step is to stuff the ballot box, so to speak. You got to get other people to amplify what you're saying. So some of my friends talk about having a hype crew. Those are the people who are going to retweet you, repost the things that you're doing. And sometimes it happens organically because people like your message. But otherwise, you have to have some friends, some colleagues who are happy to amplify whatever it is you're saying. You can't just sit around and wait for those recommendations, for those referrals. You have to ask. Ask clearly and say thank you when people take the time to refer you and recommend you to their audiences.
This is all amazing advice, I think. And like you said, it doesn't matter whether we're in quarantine or not or whatever you're doing. This is something that everybody needs to know. And you have lots of great advice for people. And once again, where should people go to follow along with Ciara and everything that you are doing and seek some more help if they need more help?
That's right. We have blogs and videos and so much more at pregamemagazine.com and pregamehq.com. And we are doing, during this quarantine time, a free Friday live stream series, which is interviews with my favorite game changers, long form, and that's in a private Zoom. So if you want to sign up for that and participate, just go to pregamehq.com, click on main events, and join us every Friday for one of those interviews with my favorite people across the U.S.
That is awesome. Ciara, always so good to talk to you. And your setup looks pretty amazing, too, I got to say, although I was hoping to see the rabbit again, but maybe for next time. But Ciara,
he's like literally running around my feet right now.
All right, well, that's the tease for next time, another appearance. Well, Ciara, thank you so much. Always good to talk to you, and we'll talk to you soon.
See you later. Thanks, Digital Trends team.
There's Ciara Pressler right there. So Work Life, we've got lots of segments of that at Digital Trends, lots of great advice, and like she said, Pregame HQ, and her own Zoom meetings that are going on there too with her interviews. So check those out. All right, coming up next, we've got Ken Young from Flipboard to talk about Tech Briefs, where we bring you up to date on some of the big stories in tech. And this time we're going to focus on entertainment. So we're going to talk about that coming up right after this. Stick around, back here in a minute with more Digital Trends Live. Well, hello there. It's Digital Trends Live. Thanks for joining us. I'm Greg Nibbler, and I appreciate everybody who's joining in, so hit that subscribe button. And it is Friday, which means it's time for another edition of Tech Briefs, where I am joined by Ken Young, the technology editor for Flipboard, to bring you up to date on some of the biggest news in tech from the week. And this week, we're going to focus a little bit on the entertainment side of things, because there are some more developments. First off, Ken, hello. Good to see you.
Hey, Greg. Nice to see you again.
So a lot going on here. It seems like every week we've been talking about a different streaming service launching or revamping or something along those lines. And we have another one. And this is HBO Max finally getting a launch date, and where we're going to be seeing this platform rolling out. We knew it was going to be coming at some point, but this is the big conglomeration with HBO's regular programming now adding in all of this additional stuff that they're going to throw in with it. It's going to be a pretty big rollout when it happens. What do you know about this? What do you want to tell us about when it comes to this compared to some of the other ones?
So I think this is the latest iteration, the latest instance of a streaming service that will have a captive audience, in a manner of speaking, with everyone stuck at home. And this is I don't want to say it's an optimal time, but basically it is, and it falls on the heels of Quibi launching earlier this month. Then you have news from, as we talked about last week on Tech Briefs, with NBC Universal's Peacock as well, that's launching later on as this year. So we're starting to see a lot of these rollouts come out. So this is no surprise that for $15 a month, you're going to get basically everything from the HBO library. You're going to get obviously shows such as Fresh Prince, Friends, Big Bang Theory, all the movies from the famed Studio Ghibli series. So my favorite, Totoro. That gotta love that anime. So you're having about like 10,000 plus hours of content. If you are an AT&T subscriber, I believe you will get HBO Max for free, as well as there's some other instances where if you're paying for HBO now, you will be getting HBO Max included. So this is a good time for them, especially as you look at Netflix announcing their earnings. Earlier this week, they said that they gained nearly 16 million new subscribers this year. So I believe it's like 150 plus million subscribers worldwide total today, or give or take, if my math is correct. And so this is a good time for them. And you look at Verizon as well. It's like they just lost several 100,000 paid TV subscribers. So you see that there's a lot more interest in the streaming services.
Yeah, and I think with HBO Max, like you said, with all that content that they're going to have on there, I'm an HBO subscriber, and I think it's just supposed to roll right into it because it's the same cost. And it is more, than most streaming services. I think Netflix goes up more if you're looking for 4K, but $14.99 is a little bit expensive, but you get a lot with it, so I think it's going to do really well. We'll have to see, obviously, when it comes out. There's a lot of competition with it, though, and talking about that, going from HBO Max, talking about the competition in online entertainment, we also have news of this. So Vudu is an online service where you can share and rent movies. You can have movies on demand. And Walmart had been the previous owner of them. They actually sold to Fandango, which is a big move by Fandango. Of course, Fandango makes most of their money off of ticket sales to actual theaters. So Fandango trying to find some other ways to bring some more revenue in. Not that they haven't tested the waters before on this, but this is a pretty big move, I think, for them to pick up Vudu.
Right. So Vudu is, as you mentioned, I mean, it's very similar to like a Redbox or a Blockbuster type of thing. You kind of, instead of a physical presence, you are doing it through your TV. And Vudu is supported on hundreds of over 100,000 devices. It has millions of people using it. And this is different from what you get with Netflix and with all these other streaming services. This is not a streaming service. This is your on-demand buy and rent marketplace for videos. And Walmart bought this probably, I believe, like in 2006 or 2010, give or take about 10 years ago. And this is actually, I mean, and Walmart wanted to kind of really take on Amazon and kind of obviously with being the massive retailer, Walmart had the attention and the reach to do that, but it didn't really do anything with it. It didn't really take off. So now Walmart's parting ways with Vudu, and now Fandango, which is owned mostly by Comcast, but also partly by AT&T, has that capability to leverage that. And will Vudu actually remain as its own subsidiary, or will it actually be a part of Fandango now, which is Fandango's version of Vudu, which is its own marketplace? Now, of course, everyone knows as Fandango is, when is the latest movie showing up, it being available in a theater, when can I buy tickets? There's all that transactional type of thing when you want to watch a movie. But since we're not able to go to the movie theaters anymore, and probably not for a long time, so why not, leverage Vudu? So kind of really take it, if you can't go to be there physically, why can't you watch it at home? And so this can be very complementary to that. But whether or not, how that actually integration plays out, that's going to remain to be seen. As we talked about last week, Trolls World Tour did very well for Universal. Universal is owned by Comcast. Right. So could we see more of these type of things as this pandemic goes on, as we're stuck at home for a long period of time? Could we start to see more of these things like, Wonder Woman, or, I don't know what other movies are big blockbusters are coming out? Could it?
Right. I mean, well, you have all the Marvel movies too, and everything else that's set to come out. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see if some other ones start doing this. Depends on how long it goes, but it's definitely going to change to some aspect, because, I mean, when is everybody going to feel comfortable going into a movie theater again that's packed? I mean, it'll be interesting. Definitely a big move, though. Yeah, with Fandango buying Vudu, and also Fandango's 20th anniversary, which is coming up next week. And going from that, forcing the segue, to YouTube's 15th anniversary, which was actually yesterday. And that is when, it's crazy to think it's only been 15 years, but it's also been 15 years of YouTube. And it was back then, 15 years ago, when that first video went up of me at the zoo, or whatever it was called, something along those lines, with one of the co-founders there at the zoo, and seeing what YouTube's brought to the table over 15 years. I mean, it's pretty incredible what it's done. It's actually, from one of the reports I read, it's the #2 search engine in the world after Google, because people go to YouTube to look up videos. And seeing where it is now, though, also just in what an important role it plays beyond, just fun, crazy videos, and you have the music videos and everything else that's on there, which is a part of it, but also feeding into controversy in association with going on to coronavirus. And that's why this week we have the YouTube CEO who said they're going to look to ban some of these videos that link really outlandish conspiracy theories, 5G causing coronavirus, those kinds of things, and looking to maybe ban those and remove them from the platform. The question is, I just don't think they're going to be able to really effectively do that.
Right. So this is basically the Titanic, minus the fact that, we don't know if there's going to be an iceberg ahead. I mean, we kind of know there's small little obstacles. It's been well reported in the past, and the fact that coronavirus is impacting YouTube now is not the big iceberg. I mean, they've been dealing with misinformation for a long time.
Right.
This is a $15 billion a year business. They have billions of users, and as you said, this is the #2 search engine. I mean, think about it though. I mean, years ago, let's say more than 15 years ago, uploading a video, who would have thought that you could have had a billion views on that video, right? And now you look at how many of these videos managed to hit that milestone, and there's a lot of them. And YouTube's power has created new celebrities. It's the new Hollywood. It's the new spawned new industries, new ways of thinking and getting information out there, in addition to beyond just the written word that you get on Facebook and Twitter and other social networks. So this is it's a big beast, and of course it's like, if you don't want to search for stuff on Google or any typical search engine, you want to find something a little bit more explanatory. That's what you get with YouTube, and not bad for Google for buying it for just more $1.5 billion. I mean, think about it. What YouTube
Right.
would have been worth now? But yeah, as you're talking about, there's a lot of negative stuff that's going on with YouTube, with harassment, with misinformation, with all these type of things that that's been going on. And how does YouTube deal with this, and can it do it effectively? This is a good step forward for YouTube to start banning videos. My personal opinions, that in terms of and shifting it more towards legitimate sources, that being from the World Health Organization, from the Centers for Disease Control. But what happens after that?
Right.
I mean, what happens when we go into November with the presidential election, with other big name events? Like, how is YouTube going to take a stand there? Is it going to be a back and forth, or are they going to do something more codified? And that remains to be seen.
And how to effectively do that, what all you enforce, it is going to be interesting, but that's what they're coming out with right now, and it'll be fascinating. By the way, really quick, you mentioned the billions of views. The most viewed video of all time on YouTube is Despacito. As of right now, 6.7 billion views. Despacito, #1. I know. I was kind of surprised by that too. But all right, that's it for this week. Again, Tech Brief.
We get ours there.
I'm sure we're on the way. I'm going to guess by the 16th anniversary, it'll be 1 billion views of Tech Briefs. I'm positive of that. And speaking of which, download the podcast. There's a podcast available, too, that everybody can hit subscribe to for Tech Briefs. Ken, as always, thank you so much. Good to talk to you, and I'll talk to you next week.
See you, Greg.
All right, there's Ken Young from Flipboard. Again, you can follow along with Digital Trends and Flipboard for all the information that we were just talking about. And we've got one more thing for you here today. So we're going to come back after break, and we've got Riley Wim with a special feature on how NASCAR drivers are handling quarantine. And this is actually pretty cool because they've got some really amazing racing simulators at home, and we're going to be getting to see some of that coming up here right after this. So you don't want to miss it. Stick around. Back in a minute with more Digital Trends Live.
Whether it's beating your little brother in Mario Kart or racing friends on Forza, video games and racing have gone hand in hand for decades. And there's a new player in the spotlight right now. With the coronavirus canceling new races for the foreseeable future, NASCAR, F1, and other racing leagues have turned to virtual races on simulators. So start your engines. This is everything you need to know about iRacing. Right now, racing is one of the only sports that still can kind of be played. Think about it. Basketball players can play NBA 2K, but they can't physically shoot the ball with their controller. NFL players can't physically throw the ball with their controller or hit someone virtually on Madden. But with racing, there's a very unique opportunity for the sport to thrive during this pandemic. The Daytona 500 was the last real-life race for NASCAR. Since social distancing has been put into effect, the league has been carrying out its Cup Series via iRacing and these awesome racing simulators. So what is iRacing exactly? It's a super realistic racing simulator that at first glance is hard to distinguish from real life. For you to play, all you need is a digital wheel and pedal through a gamepad. But the pros are taking it a step further. They're racing in mini virtual cockpits. We've all heard about the physical toll racing puts on drivers, from losing 10 to 20 pounds a race just by sweating, to dealing with the force of the cars moving at 200 miles per hour. We talked to the man whose family has been pioneering racing simulators for years to see how they actually recreate the feel of the cars and tracks.
How we're interpreting it is actually more important to how the user wants it to be interpreted. I've been doing this for 15 years, and one thing I've learned is that everyone's different. Everyone perceives things differently. Everyone wants to feel something different. So, the perception of how the car should feel is really up to the person in the seat driving, and it's their interpretation. So the software is taking the raw data, our software is taking the raw data from the physics engines on the back end, and in various ways communicating this information, and then the interpretation of that physics is up to the user. And so we have a software interface that gives them the opportunity to change parameters in real time and maybe add, for instance, more pitch down when they hit the brakes, or maybe more roll when they're on the banking of, say, a track like Daytona.
Like Sean said, the simulator is realistic in that the drivers can change it to how they like the cars and tracks to feel. But what is it like for the people actually racing in the cockpits? We asked NASCAR driver Ty Gibbs what it's like.
It helps a lot. It's really close. I've got so smart with the machine that I've gone through. Every time I go to a different racetrack in my race car I race, and I fully do I make my own motion profile. I've known the machine so much that I know how to make the motion profile for the race car. So I like it how I feel the car. So I've got it down to that, which has helped me out a lot, which took a lot of time to learn how to do that, So I'd always go and I keep everything at stock. I keep everything at baseline, and I move it around to how I kind of want the car to feel, and that's helped me out a lot.
Denny Hamlin, who won the Daytona 500, the last real-life race of 2020, also won the first iRacing event as well. And that's probably because he's been using SimCraft racing simulators for years now to get an edge on his competitors. These virtual races aren't just for the entertainment of the fans and to keep the sponsorship dollars coming in, but they're a great way for the drivers to keep the rust from setting in.
Well, Denny was by far the first one before anybody. He was doing it back in 2005 and stuff like that, but I got it in late 2013, 2014. I was one of the first drivers to get one of those like that, so I feel like a lot of those guys kind of fall behind.
Well, pro racers are going to use whatever they feel will give them valuable seat time, right? So you mentioned Denny Hamlin earlier. Denny Hamlin has an Apex 3. He's had his product for about 4 years now. And professional drivers or even amateur drivers today are using the equipment to learn tracks, to practice racecraft, to really get unlimited seat time in their home at a fixed cost.
I feel like it's got so realistic that and testing is so expensive. People don't understand that, so it's helped out a lot for when you can't test every single day of the week, and there's testing rules and all this stuff that kind of sucks, but you can't test during the week. So get on a simulator and go on the track that you're going to race at. It's going to help so much, and that's what's helped me out a lot. And I feel like a lot of these drivers that are nowadays realizing that this helps so much, they're gonna get one because they want to win so bad, So they're gonna get one, and they're gonna practice and race on it, and that's, I feel like, helped me out a lot.
Right now, it seems this technology is just for the pros, but it's definitely going to open opportunities for people who only feel comfortable going 200 miles per hour virtually.
As the technology evolves and as the market evolves, people are going to crave more and more realism and environments that are active, that can actually move and give the user a compelling, immersive experience is certainly in the cards.
These drivers are going to continue to race these simulators competitively while we have no real-life races. But that doesn't mean you can't join in on the fun. You don't need these big, expensive concepts. All you need is a high-speed internet connection and a controller, and you can go head-to-head with the best around.
All my social medias are under TyGibbs_. So if you want to look me up and challenge me, you can.
Like Ricky Bobby said, if you ain't first, you're last. Until next time, I'm Riley Wynn with Digital Trends, and thanks for watching.
Welcome back to Digital Trends Live. Again, thank you everyone for joining. What a show we've had. Thank you to Riley Wynn there for that segment. And thanks to all of you who have joined along this week. I want to tell you what's coming up next week. But first, just a reminder, we've had a pretty fantastic week so far. And for those of you that join us every day, thank you. Again, hit the subscribe button, and that way you can join in every day. And it takes a very big, very hardworking team to make this happen every day. So just a shout out to our team, Mike, Matt, Kelsey, Jake, Jess, Lara, and Mike in New York. That's what it takes to make this happen and to make all this show run from here, from this spare room in my basement. That's where we're broadcasting from, bringing you all this great stuff. And coming up on Monday, we're going to have the second half of that Joseph Gordon-Levitt interview. And it's great. I'm just going to tell you, it's fantastic. Joseph Gordon-Levitt's amazing. And so that's going to be on Monday. We'll have the second half of that. We'll also have another edition of Awesome Tech You Can't Buy Yet with Drew Prindle. So that's going to be on Monday as well. And plus, who knows what that week's going to bring. We're always going to have some great guests here. We'll always have tech news for you. We're going to be here for you throughout everything and beyond. And so thank you for joining us. Really appreciate it. Share the show. And I'm Greg Nibbler, and I'll be right back here on Monday with another edition of Digital Trends Live.